Yeah, this is the sound of the start of your weekend. It is the Not the Top 20 betting show brought to you in association with Sky Bet. That is right. It's George hosting today instead of Ali. He's off away doing a very important shoot somewhere else. But I am delighted to say that we've got a special guest. I think 7.5, 8 years after you first came on Not the Top 20, like what I think might have been our first ever betting show. It is the man, no myth, but the legend, Mark O'Haire. Mark, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks, George. We're speaking on Thursday. Just woken up in a great mood after seeing Queen's Park Rangers beat Swansea away in midweek, get back to winning ways. So yeah, couldn't be happier.
Mark, the time is 2:10. So what you're doing waking up at this time at your age is an absolute disgrace. For those who aren't aware of the work that you do, just a quick bio, I guess, just so that everyone can know who they're listening to for the next half an hour or so.
So yeah, I've been in the betting industry for over a decade now, first as a sort of content creator, but since sort of moved into the world of sort of straight tipping, have a private member service, and also sort of file copy and deliver sort of podcasts and video recordings for a few other firms as well, largely focusing on the Premier League, unfortunately, but a bit of European stuff, but a lot of my passion too, which is the EFL. So yeah, I've been betting these leagues for over a decade or so, and yeah, always enjoy it. Always love the competitive nature of the division and the unpredictability too of the EFL. So yeah, hopefully I'm well versed in what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll get into it in a second. Because we've got Mark on, we are mixing up the way we do things a little bit. Do not worry, Eggman fans. There will be an Eggman. I'll be doing it rather than Ali today. We've got Naps, we've got Next Best, we've got an swerve from Mark, and the Eggman and the multi coming up later, as well as a few goal scorers. So loads to get through during the show. Do remember that gambling comes with risks. 18 plus. Obviously, prices can change with Sky Bet, but they are correct at time of recording. And visit begambleaware.org if you want to check out the responsibilities around safer gambling. Now, Mark, let's start with you. What is your best bet of the EFL weekend?
I'm going goal chasing in League Two. So Swindon are playing Colchester. Swindon, League Two's great entertainers, you'd like to think. They've been really good fun to follow for quite a while now, scoring freely under Ian Holloway, picking up positive results despite having a bit of a lax defence at the best of times. But yeah, sitting second, 8 wins from 13. Those fixtures are averaging 3.31 goals per game, 10 of which have gone over 2.5 goals. That is my play alongside both teams to score here, even money against Colchester. So I looked at Swindon's record under Holloway, averaging 1.96 home goals per game in his 23 matches at the county ground. They've scored in 18 of those. They've only managed 6 home clean sheets, though. This season, they've scored at least twice in 5 of 6. They've also conceded at least twice in 3 of those 6, keeping just the 1 clean sheet. So overs a winner in 4 of 6. BTTS a winner in 4 of 6 at home. In midweek, they drew 2-2 at home to Notts County. That followed a 4-0 defeat at Accrington. So for a team pushing for promotion, they'll be eager to get back to winning ways. And yeah, just you look into the underlying metrics for Swindon Town this season, there have been 58 big chances, according to Opta, across those 13 fixtures, 4.46 per game. That's very healthy. And I think it should increase with Colchester in town because I'm not sure what's occurred in Essex over the last few weeks, but Colchester have turned into a crazy team to follow. So I know last year they started pretty slowly, found their feet and finished pretty well. Seems like something similar is brewing because they won 1 of the first 10 fixtures. But the last 4 games, yes, it started with defeat, but the last 4 results, a 4-2 loss, 6-2 win, 2-1 and 3-1 victories as well. So 13 goals scored in 4 games. But the data is absolutely outrageous. Those 4 games, Colchester are averaging 3.32 expected goals. They've had 45 shots in the box, 31 shots on target, and they have created 24 big chances. So that's 6 per game in the last 4 fixtures. They've also hit the woodwork 3 times in that sample. So it seems to have stemmed from Cowley bringing in Mika Mbik and Kyrese Lisby into starting roles. Harry Anderson, of course, contributing, Jack Payne there too in that 4-2-3-1. But they are providing huge firepower, and I expect them to go to Swindon and score at the very least. They've scored in 11 of 13 overall, but just the 1 shutout themselves. So their games are averaging 2.91 expected goals, 4.77 big chances. BTTS has been a winner in 10 of their 13 so far. So if you expect Colchester to go to Swindon and score, you almost always guarantee the Robins will score at home too. So just produce or just put the 2 bets together, really, back overs and BTTS even money. I think it looks a real treat.
Love it. And I've got a selection in that game coming up later on, which aligns beautifully with your nap. So there you go. Mark's nap going goal chasing, as he says, at the county ground between Swindon Town and Colchester United. My best bet of the weekend is in a game that we're going to call El Crapico, something down that line. It is Swansea hosting Norwich City. Swansea City hosting Norwich City. Two teams woefully out of form, two managers massively under pressure. And I think Norwich are a huge bet at 9-4. I know there'll be Norwich fans listening, wondering how on earth a team who is as poor as they've been in recent weeks could possibly be the bet or the standout value of the weekend. But in part, it's because of their opponent. Now, Swansea started the season relatively well. The results were good, but we've seen things spiral in the last couple of weeks. The underlying numbers have been very poor. The results have been pretty poor. The best result in their last three, the only game they haven't lost, was a 0-0 draw away at Southampton, where Southampton absolutely battered them by every single metric apart from goals. Lawrence Vigouroux was kept very busy. The shot count was 21-6. The expected goals were 3.1 to 0.2. They then went to QPR. They hosted QPR, I should say, last night. And even though they had a man sent off relatively early in the game, which impacted how it went, even at 0-0 until Roman Burrell scored after 18 minutes, QPR were by far the better team, as I'm sure, Mark, you enjoyed yourself. You'd have watched them last night. And they had a couple of chances very late on to steal a point, but for the most part, QPR were the better side throughout. And this has been a consistent trend. If you're looking at metrics such as touches in the box and XG4, they rank really low within the league. Norwich, similarly, aren't a particularly good side. Their results have been poor for a long time now. Liam Manning is under immense pressure. They were beaten 1-0 away at Derby in midweek. But I think there are reasons to think that they, A, are due a win, and B, can, in terms of value here, are too big a price to kind of compound Swansea's misery. Yes, they were beaten 1-0 by Derby in midweek, but they were by far the better team in the first half. I watched this game live, and it felt basically like a matter of time until Norwich would take the lead. They squandered multiple chances, and by the time Ozo scored with a brilliant goal for Derby, that came at the end of a good 10-minute spell for Derby, but it had completely come against the run of play as to how that game had gone up to the half-time whistle effectively. And their home form is abysmal. Norwich under Liam Manning have lost 5 out of 5 at Carrow Road, but away from home, the performances at least have been better. They drew 1-1 away at Stoke, which is an okay result. They very nearly beat Coventry with a real rearguard performance, conceding very late on in that game, having gone ahead early. They beat Blackburn away from home. They beat Portsmouth away from home. They even in the Cup, they beat Watford away from home. They were okay in the 3-1 defeat against Ipswich on Derby Day, up until the point they went behind 2-1. And they put in a decent showing in the first half. Now, this has been something that's happened in Liam Manning's career to date, where his teams tend to excel away from home, or they have done in the past, because he's a manager who coaches very well to attack teams to attack in transition. And when you play away from home, naturally the team at home will come out a bit more, look to play a little bit higher, and then have more space in behind to attack into. And that is generally the way that his teams flourish. That will be the case with Swansea. There's no way Swansea will sit back deep and soak pressure here. They'll play a high line as they always do, and I think Norwich have the tools to expose that. It's a game between two poor sides, but there's no doubt that Norwich should have the better individual quality within the team, especially with Josh Sargent, who may be out of form, but still will, obviously is the best player on the pitch in terms of goal scoring ability and individual ability too. So, given where the prices are, and given the way that Swansea are trending, obviously home advantage plays a part in this, but the 23-20 about Swansea and the 9-4 about Norwich is way too big, especially against a side who, as I say, seems to put in their best performances away from home. I put up Bristol City to beat Norwich a couple of weeks or last weekend because Norwich's home form is so bad, and because I didn't think they should have much home advantage factored into their price. I think the same can be said about them away from home. So, yeah, nap. A team who need a win against a team who also need a win, but Norwich at 9-4 I think is a standout value as far as I can see. The 9-4 there with Sky Bet. Mark, what's your next best?
Yeah, I'll stay in the Championship because I think EFL schedules at this time of year can be quite important. We're coming off a midweek round of action. A lot of teams are playing home and then home again. Some teams are playing away and away again. So Millwall stand out as quite an attractive proposition to me. They're home, having won in midweek and playing a Leicester side who were beaten away at Hull on Tuesday and come to the capital to face a Millwall team who are, I think, starting to motor, starting to find their form and find their range. Players coming back from injury have certainly helped, but it's 3 wins on the spin, 1 defeat in 8, up to 3rd in the Championship table. Since that kind of uncharacteristic thrashing at home to Coventry, they've beaten both Stoke and West Brom at the Den. And for me, quite simply, they have been the better team of the two this season. So they are quite significant outsiders at home to Leicester. That's despite having turned over the likes of Leeds and Burnley here last season. They've won 15 times from 29 home fixtures going back to the start of last season. It's 9 and 17 under Alex Neil. So they're operating around a 50% win rate at the Den over quite a decent sample size. I've got them 6th on expected points this season, giving up the 4th fewest big chances and giving up just 1 big chance in their last 3 games. As I say, key players have returned from injury. They look strong, quite secure, and they love this sort of fixture. A big team coming down to the Den that will look to take control. Millwall can stay in their shape, counter-attack, cause havoc from set pieces. That's the foundation, but there's so much more to this team. Whereas Leicester just have flattered to deceive quite a lot this season. You look at the starting 11 and the squad, it is quite thin. There are some serious stars in the team. Fatawu, Mavididi in particular have really showed their class, but they're quite reliant on these individual quality players because ultimately they're underwhelming for me. 4 wins in 11 so far, 3 clean sheets, just 1 away from home. That came at Charlton when they were absolutely pummeled and somehow escaped with a win. I've got them 18th on expected points, and they've lost the expected goals battle in 4 of their 6 away days already, including that trip to Hull in midweek, where they conceded 6 shots on target, and Hull were without Ollie McBurney as well. And a big chance aggregate away from home for Leicester reads 7-16 in their opposition's favour. So, I think Millwall can definitely get something out of this game. They're attractive at 7-4 on the nose, but I'll be a little bit more pragmatic and propose the draw no bet here at 10-11. It just means stakes are returned if the game ends in a draw, but still a nice price to back the Lions.
Lovely stuff. Pro Millwall there. Lions against Foxes, and Mark is siding with the Lions. Next best for me also comes in the Championship, and it is Southampton to go to Blackburn Rovers and compound their misery and win at 7-5. Again, picking a team here who are out of sorts, but Southampton surely soon are going to beat someone and beat them handsomely. There's always, at this stage of the season, 2 or 3 teams in the EFL who are the massive statistical anomalies, who are the ones you can really circle and say, look, they cannot be posting these kind of numbers and be as good or as poor as the results suggest. And I can't really remember one as stark as Southampton right now. And it's going to be very interesting to see what goes on with Will Still in the next couple of weeks, because he's certainly starting to lose the faith of the fans. But if you as I believe, if you can judge a manager quite effectively on results alongside underlying numbers, because Will Still cannot finish the chances and he cannot account for consistent defensive lapses or bad luck. What he can do is put out a team to dominate between both boxes, and that's exactly what Southampton do on a pretty regular basis. Looking at their XG numbers this season, from a defensive point of view, they've conceded 15 goals from 13 XG. So it's a slight underperformance. It's not a great deal. It's not going to move the needle too much. It's from an attacking standpoint where I can't really remember seeing anything like this before, or at least not to this degree, where if you're looking at XG this season as per Opta, in the Championship, Coventry City have the highest expected goals figure in the league so far, with 25.9, of which they've scored 32 goals. So they are overperforming their XG by 6 or 7, and they're scoring, loads. Second is Southampton with 20.8. So 5 XG lower than Coventry. They've only scored 12 goals. So the gap there between the two teams is absolutely vast. The underperformance from Southampton is crazy, especially when you consider they have Adam Armstrong and Cameron Archer, 2 guys who, the reason why they're professional footballers for the most part is their finishing ability and their movement and their goal scoring ability effectively. This just isn't going to continue. I watched their game against Bristol City on Tuesday night, and they were really good in the first half. And they took the lead through Armstrong with a very good finish. It was completely deserved. But an individual error from Wood meant that Bristol City went to the other end and scored through Anis Mehmeti with a very good finish. And in the second half, Twine scored 2 great goals, albeit the first came from some fortune where a kind of dragged shot deflected off Sinclair Armstrong against the post, went through McCarthy's legs and into Twine's path. Like, what Will Still would do for a goal like that, falling his way, given the luck, 2 minutes before a long shot that had the keeper completely beaten, rattled off the crossbar for Saints, and would have been a very different game. This seems to be the story of their season so far, is in big moments, the big moments don't go their way. And when you are struggling to get over the line and struggling to win games, that's when you struggle to see games out. The good thing for them here is that they're playing against a Blackburn Rovers side who themselves cannot see out games. They were 1-0 up against Sheffield United, a poor Sheffield United team, or who are looking poor up to that point, and they conceded 3 goals in the second half and lost the game 3-1. There is massive concern at Blackburn around Valerian Ismail, around Rudy Gestede. So for Saints, I think it's almost the perfect opposition for them now, going up against a side who are also low on confidence, who, unlike Bristol City, themselves aren't in a position to raise much of a challenge against them. And if Saints can get ahead in this game, I think this is the one where the floodgates may open and they may really put Blackburn to the sword. So at 7-5, there is I'm not making this argument, but if you're going to use underlying numbers from a kind of very black and white perspective, you could make a case for Southampton being the second best team in the league behind Coventry. And they are not being priced up that way at all. But it wouldn't surprise me in any way if their points tally over the next 10, 12, 15 games is that of a top 3 team. And if that's the case, there's no way they should be this price away at Blackburn side in the relegation zone. So 7-5, there is my next best. Goal scorer time. And normally this is where Ali rattles off about 7 goal scorers and I do 1, but roles are reversing. I've got 4 to come, but Mark, take us away with yours.
Yeah, I know, George, you've been quite eager to oppose Crewe lately. I have been too, and I will be doing again probably this weekend when they host Grimsby. Grimsby have been great fun to follow this season. They've taken the most shots in the division, lead the way for shots on targets. It's second for big chances created. I've also got them top of the table in terms of expected points, and they're facing a Crewe side that have really fallen off after an eye-catching start. They sit second bottom on XP over the last 8 games. They've lost 6 of their previous 9 in League 2 coming into this fixture too. So they do look vulnerable again. Grimsby have scored in all bar 2 matches this season. They've scored twice or more in half of their away days, and they're averaging 1.92 goals per game. So I've picked out Charles Vernam to score here at 7-2 for Grimsby. 9 players are priced up shorter than he is in the anytime goal scorer market on Sky Bet, and that looks a little unfair for a player who operates on the left-hand side of Grimsby's 4-2-3-1 and has just an insane number of shots in most matches. So he's already got 10 goal involvements in League 2 this season, 5 goals, 5 assists. He scored in the famous win over Man United in the League Cup. He also notched from the penalty spot last week, so it looks like he's now on penalty duty. Hopefully he can retain those duties this weekend. But yeah, it's more about his shot output, because when you're having as many shots as he is, the likelihood is you are going to net a few. So 41 shots in 14 starts, that's 293 per game. He's hit the target with 20 efforts already, that's 1.43 per game. He had 5 shots against Gillingham last week and has now had at least 3 shots in 9 of those 14 starts. He's got 0.47 goals per 90 in League 2. Grimsby are in for about 1.35 goals in this game according to the market. So 7-2, which implies about a 22% chance, just looks far too big for the joint top scorer for Grimsby, who will be on penalties this weekend too, hopefully. So yeah, Charles Vernam 7-2 to score for Grimsby away at Crewe.
Yeah, I don't think Jay's Cabbie is going to get another penalty anytime soon, having missed a few early this season, and Vernam sticking that one away last weekend. Right, I have a few goal scorer selections. Now, I know Ali normally sticks a staking plan to this. I've got one main one, and then I've got 3 others, and we're going to have a nice Yankee, and that's going to be the end of it. A player that you've already mentioned, Mark, and in your nap, Mika Mbik, is 3-1 to score any time and 22-1 to score 2 or more. Now, luckily for me, you've already done a very good job of talking about A, Swindon's defensive record this season under Holloway, and B, Colchester's scoring. So I don't have to go into that at all because you've already mentioned it. But as you said, this is a game where we can probably expect goals. Mbik looks absolutely unbelievable for an 18-year-old. Ali tweeted a Instagram reel that Mbik posted of himself in his performance last weekend, and it's 2.5 minutes. Obviously those kind of compilations of individuals within games can be a bit noisy because you're only seeing the good stuff. But watching that, it's becoming very clear that this is a guy who is not going to be at League Two for very long. Charlton, who he's on loan from, have themselves a serious talent. And he's someone who looks like his link play is brilliant. His physicality is impressive. But he also looks a huge goal threat. In just 463 minutes so far on his loan from Colchester, he's taken 19 shots of an XG of 3.53. He looks a decent finisher. The XGOT on target is 3.91. He has scored 3 goals from those. He's already scored a brace, which came in the game before last, away at Grimsby in the 2-1 win. He just looks like a serious talent, and he's someone who I think is going to, in his first loan, kind of continue to grow. And if this is a goal fest, as you suggest, Mbik is going to be at the forefront of that. He is going to be the main goal outlet for Colchester, I would argue. And 3-1 for him to score any time is huge, but also, given he's already done it already, the 2 or more looks like a good angle. One of those players who I think when the market catches up with how good he is, he'll be nowhere near this price going forward. So that's kind of the main selection. Like if I was to have 1 point on something, it would be Mbik to score any time at 3-1, but I have got a couple of other ones too. Kicking off with a player that I know very well in Will Lancashire, who's 11-4 to score any time for Oxford away at Sheffield Wednesday. Now, Wednesday put in a decent performance at home to Middlesbrough on Wednesday night. They lost the game 1-0, Morgan Whittaker scoring relatively early on. They should have conceded a penalty and probably been down to 10 men about 20 minutes later when Joe Lumley wiped out Tommy Conway, and for some reason the referee didn't give anything. But what we can say after that was that Lumley made a string of, in my opinion, excellent saves. One in particular from Brown was superb. He parried a Conway shot wide. There were kind of multiple decent saves that were made by Lumley in his first game as emergency loan keeper. And Wednesday had chances themselves. But the only thing, this is a Wednesday team who are beaten 5-0 at home by Coventry, who are beaten 3-0 at home by Bristol City, who easily could have been sent for 3+ last night on Wednesday night if it wasn't for Lumley, whose away form this season has been so good because away from home, Wednesday have an unbelievable away following who travel in massive numbers to their away games. But as we saw last night, are boycotting going to Hillsborough because in protest at the ownership of Dejan Chansiri. And that will be the case again on Saturday. It must be an incredibly difficult place to play at home. Like, home advantage is in so much because of the atmosphere that your fans can make, rather than playing in basically an empty stadium with a few thousand away fans in one corner. It's not a massive surprise to me that Sheffield Wednesday struggle at home. And Oxford come to town off the back of a really disappointing display against Wrexham on Wednesday night, but a very strong display against Derby on Saturday. Lancashire was left out for that game, came on at half-time yesterday, hit the bar from a set piece, albeit I think it was flagged shortly afterwards. But he's already scored goals for Oxford this season. He's the main goal threat when he's on the pitch. I'm pretty sure he's going to start on Saturday. And as everyone else does, I'm sure Oxford will be able to create chances at Hillsborough. And that's 11-4. A couple more to add to the goal scorer Yankee. We have Ethan Archer of Cheltenham Town, who's 6-1 to score any time. He's yet to score this season, but as we know, until Steve Cotterill came in, Cheltenham were struggling to create any kind of chance, let alone score them. But the zero, he's had 1.06 XG so far this campaign. But if you look at last season, he scored 7 goals over the course of the campaign, albeit from 3 XG. He's someone who's very capable of playing off that left-hand side of finding the back of the net. And I think now that Cotterill's in and the form has improved, yes, they're playing against Walsall, but as I mentioned on the pod a couple of weeks ago, Walsall's defensive numbers in certain games this season has been quite concerning. And given the way that the Cheltenham are riding the crest of the Cotterill wave, I think it's a matter of time until he scores. And that 6-1, I'm pretty confident if he stays fit and continues playing, he's going to score within the next 6 games. And Saturday may be the time to capitalise on that. And then finally, Scott Banks of Blackpool is 11-2 to score any time. Now, he came into the side in the EFL Trophy game against Barrow in mid-September and scored twice in the 5-0 win. He then started against Barnsley next up and had a shot well saved. He was taken out of the side against Wickham. He then came out of the side for a couple of weeks, I think due to injury, but came back into the team last time out against Wickham at half-time because Morgan came off injured. Now, Morgan is injured for Saturday's game, and that means that Banks, I'm pretty sure, will start, having come off the bench last time for him. We don't have a great deal to go off because he's had quite a varied career so far, playing last season for St. Pauli out in the Bundesliga. But he did play for Bradford on loan in League Two back in 22-23 and scored 6 goals from 57 shots in 1,800 minutes. He is someone who is a goal-scoring midfielder when he gets given the opportunity to do so. And Blackpool travel to Peterborough, who defensively have been a bit of a mess all season. Even their recent improved form doesn't really look sustainable as per the underlying numbers. So I think if he does start Ian Everett's first game in charge, I think we can expect Everett to, as has always been the case, look to take the game to the opposition rather than kind of sit deep and allow the opposition to come onto them. And Banks could be overpriced to score. So Mbic, the main headline selection, 3-1 with Sky Bet. Lancashire 11-4, Scott Banks 11-2, and Ethan Archer 6-1. Banks of Blackpool, Archer of Cheltenham Town. Goalscorer Yankee for goalscorer corner. I'm going to do the Eggman in a second, but I think I've been talking for way too long now. So please, can you break that up, Mark, and give us your swerve?
Yeah, sure. So one of my first rules when betting the EFL a long time ago was to try and avoid odds-on teams away from home. I soon learned there was a time and place where that rule can be chucked in the bin, but I don't think you'll go too far wrong by avoiding odds-on favourites away from home as a general rule of thumb in these 3 divisions. Anyway, we're a quarter of the way through, or just over a quarter of the way through the League Two season so far. We've only had 8 instances where a team has gone off odds-on favourites away from home. Curiously, 5 of those 8 games were teams going away to Newport. Newport currently rock bottom of the EFL and 4-9 to be relegated. Now, Barnet did go off odds-on away from home when they went to Cheltenham, but Cheltenham was, that was pre-Steve Cotterill, so you can kind of understand that. And their away form has been terrific during their promotion campaign and also this season in League Two. 4 wins from their 6 away days so far. But, I, like most EFL punters, did quite like them at the start of the season. I thought they were undervalued, but I feel they might be a little bit overvalued in this particular instance. They're 5-6 to go away to Barrow and win. And I just think that's a little bit too short. So I would be avoiding them from the accumulators this weekend. I don't believe there's that big a difference between the top and the bottom of League Two this season. I don't believe Barrow are the worst team in the division. I don't believe Barnet are the best team in this division. It's a long old away trip as well for Barnet. They played a midweek in the trophy, but they'll be travelling on Friday, and it's a good 5 hours in the car from Barnet to Barrow. Chuck in the extra journey time with the coach. I think there's opportunity to oppose them here because Barrow have had a full week to rest and prepare for this fixture. They might not be the most formidable opposition in League Two by any stretch, but they are awkward. They are just 3 points off Barnet in the current league standings. They are unbeaten in 5, and that includes winning at league leaders Walsall last weekend, albeit with a red card in their favour. They have held Oldham away previously, and they have kept back-to-back home clean sheets coming into this fixture too. Their data isn't anywhere near as formidable as you'd hope it to be, but they are an awkward side, and I just think Barnet look too short at 5-6 when you look to Swindon, who came here last month and were 13-10. And interestingly too, sure, Barrow have changed coaches and changed squads quite significantly since their promotion, but no team has gone to Barrow as odds-on favourites since Northampton in May 2022. That's 76 games ago.
Wow, that is great. That's a great stat. Love that. Thank you, Mark. Now, I've been desperate to say this since the start of the season. I am the Eggman. I am the Walrus. It's my turn to take over the Eggman, a ridiculous name for a ridiculous man that is normally Ali Maxwell. But here is the ACCA that has that moniker. Now, I've included both my NAP and my next best in this nearly 150-1 fivefold. So, Norwich in there at 9-4, boosting the price, 9-4 boosting the price. Southampton in there 7-5. A game that you had as your next best, I completely agree about Millwall at 7-4. I think they should be favourites for this. I think, especially Leicester coming off the back of a 2-1 defeat at Hull with a second away game in 5 days or 4 days. Millwall fresh off a kind of easy win at home to Stoke when they went ahead early and were never really challenged. In total agreement. My beloved Oxford are in there too. What's the first rule of betting? Don't include the early kickoff. Second rule of betting, never bet on your own team. Well, here we go. 8-5. I think we should be favourites for this. Massive respect to Wednesday, but as I say, I'd be much more wary of betting against us at home to Wednesday than away, because the Hillsborough form just isn't good for understandable reasons. Home advantage is being factored in, as it always is, and that, in my mind, gives us a big betting proposition to consistently get against Wednesday at home until we see that change. And then the fifth and final leg is Pompey to beat Stoke at 17-10. Portsmouth, have kind of struggled to really get going this season, but I think part of that is having played quite a lot of the best teams already in the league. They were beaten 2-1 at home to Coventry in midweek, but were by no means disgraced. Again, I think this is just a Stoke angle where they've been so impressive for the most part this season, but were really flat midweek, and it's not ideal to have to go Millwall Tuesday and then back down to Pompey on Saturday. I think for a home win, Portsmouth look just a bit overpriced. So it's a purely Championship Eggman. It is Norwich at 9-4, Southampton at 7-5, Millwall at 7-4, Oxford at 8-5, and Portsmouth at 17-10. As I say, just shy of 150-1 there for this week's Eggman, and I would love it. I would love it if I was to win it after Ali struggled, and it just feels great to say that in a studio with some cans on my head as well. Right. So have we got anything? We've got the BTTS ACCA. How could I forget the BTTS sixfold? Mark, you've got 3 from the bottom, 3 from League 2. What are your 3?
Case for goals at Swindon, so I'll stick them in. I wanted to chuck in Crawley versus Bristol Rovers because I think there could be plenty of action here. Crawley, a team who just keep cropping up on my radar, actually. Not really getting their just desserts in more recent weeks. Over the season, they're generating around 130 expected goals, a solid enough number. But their last 4 matches, that's hiked to 1.7. They've had 42 shots in the box and 14 big chances created against Barrow, Cambridge, Walsall and Shrewsbury. So varying levels of opponents there. Just the 3 goals to show for their efforts in that time. But they do keep producing those numbers. They should be able to get on the score sheet against the Bristol Rovers team, who've shipped 10 goals in 3 straight losses, just the 1 away clean sheet since relegation. BTTS has banked in 5 of 6 away days, as well as 4 of Crawley's 6 at home. So, just 2 clean sheets all season for Crawley as well. So I'll have BTTS there. And then Bromley versus MK Dons. MK obviously starting to hum a bit now, looking a bit ominous. 4 straight wins, 12 goals scored. They've been particularly effective on their travels, 4 wins from 6 unbeaten games. They've scored in 11 of 13 overall, scored twice or more in 7 of those, 4 of which came away from home, and I think they are fair favourites at Bromley. But Bromley have scored in 10 of 13. They've also notched at least twice in all 6 of their home games already this season, 4 of which saw both sides score, and they've only kept 2 clean sheets in 11 coming into this. Go back further, and Bromley have scored in 25 of 29 since promotion to this level, which kind of highlights their final third threat. So, ultimately, both sides are seeing 4 from 6 winners in their respective home and away games this season. So, Bromley MK Dons, Crawley Bristol Rovers, and Swindon Colchester.
Lovely stuff. One for me in the Championship is Blackburn against Southampton. Again, we've already spoken about, as I say, I think Southampton could easily run right here. From an attacking point of view, they are due to score some goals, and I think it could be here. But at the same time, obvious defensive issues. McCarthy in goal doesn't really convince. We saw a couple of defensive lapses in possession last time out. Blackburn have some very good attacking players, as we've already seen this season, and rarely draw a blank. So even though I'm confident with the Southampton win, I think it's likely to be end-to-end rather than a kind of dull affair. Peterborough hosting Blackpool, another one. As I say, Everett coming in. I think he'll want to kind of make a statement early on. Blackpool have been a shambles defensively all season, but look to have kind of found some kind of attacking rhythm before Everett comes in. With Peterborough and Darren Ferguson, following them for BTTS has often been a good way to go. Really struggled to score early in the campaign, but have started to be able to find the back of the net, albeit, as I say, I'm not convinced that their kind of winning form will continue. And finally, Wycombe Huddersfield. This is mainly a Huddersfield thing, albeit Mike Duff, the new Wycombe manager, showing some BTTS exploits already. But Huddersfield have, as we know, an array of attacking talent with Alfie May, Joe Taylor, plenty of others too, but really bad at the back in recent times. Lee Grant coming under some pressure to produce. I think they're a team, again, who the way they approach games generally lends to it being pretty end-to-end. So the BTTS ACCA, which I think comes in just shy of 20-1, Blackburn Southampton, Peterborough Blackpool, Wycombe Huddersfield, Swindon Colchester, Crawley Bristol Rovers, and Bromley MK Dons with Sky Bet. That brings us to a close, but before we go, Mark, just going to ask you to recap your selections if possible.
Yeah, sure. So my NAP is over 2.5 goals and both teams to score at evens between Swindon and Colchester. My next best is Millwall draw no bet, 10-11 at home to Leicester. My goal scorer is Charles Vernham at 7-2 for Grimsby away at Crewe. My ACCA swerve is Barnet at 5-6 when they go away to Barrow. And my 3 BTTS selections, Swindon, Colchester, Crawley, Bristol Rovers and Bromley MK Dons.
Great stuff. My NAP, Norwich City at 9-4 away at Swansea with Sky Bet. My next best, Southampton to beat Blackburn at 7-5. Goal scorer corner is a hectic one, but Mika and Bick is the headline selection at 3-1 to score any time for Colchester at Swindon, and I like the 22-1 for him to score 2 or more as well. And then that goes into a Yankee or a fourfold, however you want to look at it, with Ethan Archer of Cheltenham Town at 6-1, Scott Banks of Blackpool at 11-2, Will Lancashire of Oxford United at 11-4. The Eggman this week is Norwich, Southampton, Millwall, Oxford and Portsmouth at just shy of 150-1. And my 3 for the BTTS ACCA, Blackburn, Southampton, Peterborough, Blackpool, Wickham, Huddersfield to go with Marks, Swindon, Colchester, Crawley, Bristol Rovers and Bromley MK Dons. There we go, and breathe. Thank you very much, Mark, for taking the time to join me today in place of Ali.
No problem, enjoyed it. Lovely to talk EFL and especially EFL betting. So yeah, enjoyed it. Thank you.
Great stuff. We'll definitely have you back again soon if you'll come on, and make sure you check out Mark's other stuff. Loads on there, as he mentioned, tipping around different leagues, and you can find them on social media and other ways to follow all of that stuff. Thank you very much to Sky Bet for sponsoring this show and their continued support. All the prices, as I say, were correct at time of recording. This show is for 18 plus only. Visit begambleaware.org to read up on the risks of gambling, but enjoy the football this weekend. Should be a cracker. Will be played out by the Reverters as ever. Please ensure that you're gambling responsibly and go well.